Villa won't be playing Champions League football next season following a 2-0 defeat at Old Trafford. Plenty of talking points there, I can tell you. The big focus is on that controversial decision to disallow Morgan Rogers' goal, which was at Norwich, but former Villa striker Dan Bardell said you can't blame it all on one decision.
It's an awful decision because look what it's cost Aston Villa. There's no guarantee.
I think it has cost
there's no
them.
point, right? No, but this is the thing you're talking about, because it's one of them where I know they still might have lost, but it's a big moment in a big game. But my only thing with that, and I've said it to you before, and I will stand by it about any argument when you talk about one decision. You play 38 games in a Premier League season for a reason. So if it comes down to one game and you don't get the result, that's not the sole reason as to why you don't finish in the Champions League.
I'm with them. I hear what Benty's saying. We all know it's not the sole reason, right? Yeah. But I tell you what, I don't care what MD says. It's robbery. It really, really is. Yeah, like in any league campaign, we can look back and say, well, we messed up there. We did this, we do that. But that's fine. That's in the past. We are talking about the present, and the present tells me what I saw with my own eyes was a shocking refereeing decision. I actually felt for him. I'm thinking to myself, just give yourself that split second. Particularly, I think nowadays referees are absolutely influenced by VAR. I think a lot of them, in fact the majority of them, Cass, I don't know whether you agree, will or won't make decisions knowing that VAR is there. They've got the safety valve of VAR, and that's what I think he should have done there.
Well, I think there's an element of there's too much information. That referee obviously he's got his headphones or the headgear with he can speak to VAR, and you're getting fed a lot of information very quickly, and I think that plays a part because he's having to make a call, but also trying to think about giving himself a bit of time. Yeah, but the incident sort of got lost. What happened? And it was, to everybody who played the game and every fan who's watching, we know it's a mistake. And yet, in the heat of the moment and the pressure's on, you can literally panic. And I feel for the ref. Cause,
so do I.
Yeah. I wouldn't agree with, if you were asked Chrissy Wilder this morning about, their season, obviously they had a major incident when they scored, and a lot of people say it was rightly chalked off. But it's a big incident that can have the outcome that could have been 2-0 up. Yes, so there are instances I could give it in any season that I've been involved in where I'd go, correct. Do you know what? Yeah, there was minor ones or not so big ones, but there was one really horrific one that cost us dearly. Now, that was what happened to Villa on Saturday.
I take Benny's,
or Sunday, should I say?
Yeah, I take Benny's point. We're going to move on because joining us now for more with Susson's broadcaster, big Villa fan, Dan Bardell. Dan, good morning, mate. How are you?
Hi, Dan.
Morning, chaps.
Great.
I'll be all right, I think, if I didn't have to keep talking about this incident every day. It's hard when it's your job, isn't it?
It is, Dan. It really is. I don't know if you heard me. I was saying to Cass here, I know what Benty's saying, and all teams can look back on incidents during the season. I get it. That's natural. However, I think with the importance of the situation, the last day, I think obviously and understandably, there's a lot more focus on it. And it was a funny one, Dan. I did the game, and sometimes you get a feeling right away, that's the wrong decision. That's exactly what I felt, Dan. What about yourself, mate?
Yeah, I was working for talkSPORT, so I was doing the YouTube show, and if you can see some of my facial expressions as it's going on, I look absolutely bewildered and bemused by the whole thing. I think I can take Darren Bent's point as well. Villa drop points in games that they shouldn't. They probably won points that they shouldn't through the season as well. I think the difficulty is that you play 37 games and everything then boils down to that final game, and we've got to that final game, and again I can sit here and say Villa did not play well. Villa did not deserve to win that game at all. Second time in a month where they've had a really big occasion and they've not turned up. But the facts are that the game is 0-0 when that incident happens. Villa score, the referees, because of the way he's blown his whistle, has not given a chance for the right process with VAR to take place. And if Villa go 1-0 up in that game, they only need a point. So it doesn't really matter what's happened up until that point. If they go 1-0 up, they probably go and get that point that they need to qualify for the Champions League. So it's a £100 million decision. Villa will not earn as much revenue next season because they'll be in the Europa League, and that's going to be hugely costly. And they perhaps have to sell even more players because they've got a buy to PSR, which is not designed to help clubs like Villa at all. And I think it's so hard when every week you sit there as a fan at the ground or as a commentator at the ground or as a pundit, and you see these offsides where the referees and the linesmen don't react until the latest possible moment, even though some of them are so blatant and you know they're offside. And then that same process doesn't take place with this Morgan Rogers incident. I think that's really hard to stomach as a football fan and as a Villa fan.
Dan, there is a case of why were Villa, I would say, more flat towards the end of the season. And it was clearly the case against Manchester United on Sunday. And that has taken me back a bit because you look at the last 6 games and you lost to Crystal Palace 3-0 in the Cup and you won 3 and lost 3 and, it just felt that Villa had just lost their way slightly. And I was saying to Ali off air that sometimes in football you make big calls, and the PSG game, when he left Ollie Watkins out in the away game, I was like, okay, you can leave your striker that was one of the main reasons why you got to the Champions League last season, and then you leave him out in the return game, a game that you need to turn a game around. And I said that sometimes have a little bit of an influence on a squad, and they just felt like a squad that had been affected slightly.
I think at the time Rashford was the form player of the two, so Rashford was getting picked for those big games. There was an element of rotation going on at that point because Villa had a lot of games, but in the big games, Rashford was the one getting picked. And at that point, to be fair, he was on form. He was getting assists and he was heavily impacting games. I think Villa's problem, they won 8 out of their last 10 Premier League games, so. Up until January, Villa weren't having a good season. It was very bitty. It was very stodgy. I think at one point they'd won 6 out of 21 games, which wasn't good enough. And I think they'd look back on the summer with some regrets with what they did in the window. But when January came, they reshaped their squad. They got the squad in the position that they wanted. They gave themselves the best chance that they could to fulfill their ambitions and try and get Champions League football again. And they got enough points. Unfortunately, it was just the goal difference that wasn't good enough. And I think 8 out of 10 games in the Premier League at the end of that season, admittedly, the big occasion, Crystal Palace in the FA Cup and Manchester United on the last day, they've come up with 2 complete no-shows. But in the other games, in fairness to them, they did absolutely everything they could to get in the Champions League, and they gave themselves every chance in that kind of back third of the season with what they did in January.
Well, they certainly did. I thought the weekend aside, I thought the finish to the season was good. Obviously disappointing PSG, but I thought they're really, really poor and deserved to get beaten. But there's an interesting one here, Dan. One of the boys just messages in, which I don't agree with. Sadly, no name in it. And it reads, 0 probability that Villa would have gone on to win that game, Ali. They were so poor all game and could have been 4-0 down within 20 minutes, which is, the end part's factually correct. Shocking decision, but I still think United win that game due to Villa's performance. I'm the opposite, Dan. I'm the complete opposite. I think Villa 100% don't lose that game if the goal stands, because as many times have we seen it, what they do is they've got something to hang on to. Now remember, United haven't scored for 75 minutes. Martinez sent off early in the first half, or midway through the first half. They haven't scored for 75 minutes. So I don't know where the logic is coming now that all of a sudden they are going to score. I think the opposite. Villa score a goal, they've got something to hang on to. Many times we've seen it, they regroup, they're solid, everything behind the ball, and it's just one of these things, mate. Dan, where are you in that?
Again, I agree with you. If Villa go 1-0 up in that game, like you say, they've got something to hang on to. That completely changes the complexion of the crowd at Old Trafford as well. They've just lost a Europa League final. Yeah. They've just had the worst season of their life. If they go 1-0 down, Manchester United fans are sat there thinking, here we go again. We've actually played quite well today, but the players are useless. They still haven't scored, and we're still going to end up losing the game. And that atmosphere probably turns a little bit toxic. The game opens up a bit. Villa, even though they've got 10 men, have got good players in transition. Arguably, the game opens up and Villa go and score again. If that goal would have been completely game-changing. I'm not sat here saying Villa played well or that they deserved to win, because they absolutely didn't. But if they go 1-0 up, there's every chance they get that point that they need to get Champions League football, and that is the thing that's really, really hard to take.
Absolutely, Dan. Listen, mate, thanks for your time earlier this morning. Really
Cheers, Dan.
appreciate it. Have a good day, mate.
talkSPORT Breakfast, waking you up Monday to Friday morning from 6 a.m. on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.